After months of anticipation, Scarlet and Violet cards are finally here, and we get our first good look at the next generation of Pokemon trading card game cards. I'm Jeff from InThirdPerson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the latest news from the Pokemon TCG. Now, the Pokemon Company have revealed the Japanese sets for Scarlet and Violet. Thank you to Poke Beach for the news. These are coming out in Japan on January 20th. Internationally, that's the same release date as Crown Zenith. We're going to have to wait a little longer, probably February, so it's not too long. But at that point, we will probably begin the new era of the Pokemon trading card game. One of the questions that many people have, and I get on my channel all the time, is when's rotation happening? And I can't say for certain, but my gut says when these cards drop internationally, that's when I think rotation is going to happen. So most likely February. Don't quote me on that. That's my best guess. And now, before we get into these cards, I do want to preface this by saying when we look at these cards that EX cards, the new EX mechanic, evolve from single prize Pokemon into the EX ones. There are Terastral Pokemon. We get our first good look at how that's going to work here as well. And thirdly, there is still one comeback mechanic that we don't know about yet. And that may change our perception of how good these cards are going to be in that meta when these cards come out. So let's go take a look at what cards were revealed. All right, we did get a Smoliv. It's one of the new Pokemon. Nothing really to write home about here. We do get a Growlithe, who is always a cutie patootie. And yeah, Stoke, search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. If you're going second, maybe that's okay, so you can set up the Arcanine, but you're probably going to get blown out. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe. But the big thing here that we wanted to talk about, Arcanine EX, and not just any EX. This is a terrestrial Pokemon, as noted by this box up here. However, it is not a rule box. This is very important to note because Path to the Peak will not shut off the terrestrial part of the Pokemon. So there's 2 parts to terrestrial Pokemon. One is that as we've played Scarlet and Violet, a Pokemon can have a terrestrial type, a Terra type, that is not their original type. This card happens to be a terrestrial fire type Arcanine, but that doesn't mean we won't get a water Arcanine, a lightning Arcanine, a grass Arcanine, and so on. They just happen to be using fire here in this first look. On top of that, we get this new terrestrial rule. This Pokemon doesn't take any damage from attacks while on the bench. So it looks like any sort of terrestrial Pokemon won't take any sort of bench damage. So that's an important thing here. Damage. That doesn't necessarily mean damage counters. So I would assume stuff like Sableye, Lost Mine, and Quick Shooting would still work, but things like Gmax Rapid Flow would not. There was another thing I wanted to mention here. Oh yeah, so it's Terra type. We talked about the Terra type. We talked about the fact that in the future there could be different types of Terra type Arcanines and other Pokemon as well. This also doesn't preclude there might be a Terra type Growlithe as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be an evolution Pokemon, but I wouldn't be surprised if they simplified it so it was just the evolution Pokemon, at least in the immediate term. And what can this Arcanine do? So it's got the move Raging Claws, 30 damage, plus this attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. It is a stage 1 Pokemon, evolves from Growlithe into EX Arcanine, and if it's got 270 damage on it, it will do a maximum of 300 damage, 1-hit KOing V-Stars. But then how do you get to 270, right? So not the worst attack, not bad, not bad. And we also have, and also I guess if you put stuff like Cape of Toughness and Big Charm will not be moving forward. Those are going to be rotating. So if there's any sort of modifiers that that could allow the Arcanine to go even higher than 280, this could do even more damage than that. Something to keep in mind. Also, with 2 fire energy, Bright Flame. 250 damage, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. That's a decent chunk of change. And 250, you're like, okay, with a Choice Belt 280, we also have to keep in mind that the EX Pokemon are going to have different thresholds as well. I think the Lucario that we're going to see is 260 HP, and this 250 might be close, if not at the threshold of being able to KO, one-hit KO stage 1 EX Pokemon. So let's keep that in mind as we look at these other cards. Now we've got our first look at a stage 2 Magneton. We don't get an updated picture, but we do have a clarification on the energy costs and such. So some important things to note here: 330 HP. That is huge. That would be the second highest for a VMAX. And Magnezone is not like a big Pokemon. I would assume that there will be stage 2 Pokemon or certain like large Pokemon like a Wailord or something that's going to go even higher than the current cap of 340 HP. Again, that's my speculation, but I think it's pretty safe to say that there will be Pokemon that go over 340 HP. The other part is that this is a stage 2, and you're going to have to either evolve 2 times or use Rare Candy, which will still be in rotation, in order to get to Magnezone. But the trade-off, right, the stage 2s are notoriously hard to get on the field. It's got some moves that are pretty quick to charge up. For 1 Lightning Energy, Energy Crush does 50 damage, and this attack does 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. If you're playing against like an Arceus deck, this is going to do big damage. If you're playing against a Lugia deck, this is going to do ridiculous damage for only 1 energy. So pretty cool counter attack there. And then its second attack for 2 Lightning Energy, Pulse Launcher, 200 damage. This Pokemon also does 30 damage to itself, which may not be the worst thing in the world for the 30 damage if you've got 330 HP and you still got 300 left over. Not a bad attack. To actually, this is actually, it's the text on the page says 200. On the card image here, which is not final, it says 220. So not quite sure, but this could be cool. I think the Energy Crush attack in particular is the most intriguing at this point in time. We've got Pawmi for, it's just the basic Pokemon. Not really a lot to talk about here. It does have paralysis on a coin flip, which could be cool against Lugia. We've got Miraidon EX. Now this one's interesting because the last time we saw this card right here, both of these were shown as being like colorless Pokemon, and they were clearly hiding some information here. We didn't see the typing of it. There was certain things that were covered up here, and now we finally get a clean look at Miraidon EX here. And some of the big things, its ability is Tandem Unit. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for 2 basic lightning Pokemon and put them on your bench, then shuffle your deck. That's a pretty cool card to start with to get to widen your bench, set up Flaffies, or whatever other lightning Pokemon are relevant in that meta. And then its second move, Photon Blaster, 220 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon can attack. Very Zacian. Oh, because Zacian was 230. 220. It's not bad, but the other thing to note is this is a basic Pokemon, so you can just put this straight onto the bench as is. So this could be really cool. I'm pretty sure they don't evolve. Yeah, it doesn't look like they do. All right, and Koraidon EX, 230 HP. Ah, this one has 220. This one has 230, feeling like Zacian and Zamazenta vibes on that. And this one has the ability Dino Cry. Once during your turn, you may attach up to 2 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your basic Pokemon in any way you like. If you use this ability, your turn ends. You're probably not going to use this ability past turn 1, but accelerating 2 fighting energy to your bench basic Pokemon in any way you like is really nice, especially for fighting Pokemon who have a notoriously hard time accelerating. This could be really great to charge up something like a Lucario V-Star or what have you, right? And it's also got the move Wild Impact, 220 damage during your next turn. This Pokemon can't attack. It's an okay attack, but I think they both have, they both have basically the same attack. Just one's fighting and one is lightning. I think both of these are both going to be setup Pokemon, where this is helping you get Pokemon onto your bench. This one is helping you accelerate energy. Here's a look at Lechonk. And this one doesn't really have a lot going on, but we're not really expecting much from basic single prize Pokemon here. We do get our first look at Professor's research, and now there's two different versions. We've got the Turo and Sada, and the full arts for these are probably going to look really nice. I'm looking forward to that. We've also got a new look at Ultra Ball, and Ultra Ball still works the same way. But what's really interesting here is that the tournament marker has been updated to G. And if you look at the current Ultra Ball, I don't happen to have one here on my desk. I believe the current marking on Ultra Ball is E. And no, it's not G. It's certainly not G. But they have gone out of their way to, one, reprint Ultra Ball, and two, update the tournament marker so that this will be tournament legal for an extra year relative to the last round of rotation. And that's a good sign. I love Ultra Ball as a card. I do have questions about some of the other balls that we currently have in rotation, such as Quick Ball, Evo Incense, and so on. If they're doubling down on Ultra Ball, we may not see some sort of equivalent to Evo Incense or Quick Ball. Right now we have like that Capture Aroma thing that's kind of both in one on a coin flip. Hate it. Anyhow, we will have Ultra Ball for years to come. And we've got a couple more cards here. We've got our first look at a Scarlet and Violet Stadium, and this is the Beach Court. And the retreat cost of each basic Pokemon is one colorless less. And in a world where, so keep in mind, this is basic Pokemon only, so that already limits its use quite a bit. The other thing is that Air Balloon is rotating out. And in a world without Air Balloon, this might be a little more viable. Although it is also only basic Pokemon. So let's keep this in mind. This might also work as a substitute for Lost Box decks, for example, that are losing Air Balloon and are losing some movement options here. This could help get like an extra move in here, or an extra retreat. So something to keep in mind. This could be interesting, though I think the fact that it applies only to basic Pokemon is going to limit its use greatly. And then we've got our look at Sprigatito. Riolu by itself doesn't really do all that much, but we do have a Lucario EX. We did see this card at the World Championships, though some of the information was obstructed at the time. Now we get our first clean look. This is not a Terastral Lucario. It is an EX Pokemon, though, 260 HP, and it's got the moves Low Kick for fighting and colorless, 60 damage, and then its Aura Sphere attack is 2 fighting and a colorless, 160 damage, and this attack does 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So 160 plus bench snipe, not bad, not bad. And you can cover the 2 fighting energy with the Miraidon. It's Miraidon, right? I think it's Miraidon at the top. So you can charge that a lot faster if you're doing a Miraidon Lucario deck. So just something to note there. And then we've got Fuecoco, very cute. Mareep, Flaffy, not the energy accelerating Flaffy, which I think is still going to be a factor going forward. So this is probably not the Flaffy you'll want to play. You'll want the Dynamotor one. And we've got Ampharos EX, another Stage 2 EX, not a Terastral, 330 HP, which is huge in the world of the Pokemon trading card game. But again, I think that we're going to have Pokemon break the 340 HP barrier here. And its moves, we've got Electro Ball for 1 lightning, does 60 damage. Not that great. And then for Lightning colorless, we get Lightning Tail, 140 damage. And if you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, you do 100 more damage. So having to discard 2 more energy to get 240 damage, not ideal. that could be covered with double turbo energy, and then you slap another one on, so that could cover the cost. You could be using the Dynamotor Flaffy to get that energy back on. Could be cool. Remains to be seen how this will work in the Scarlet and Violet meta. Look at Quaxley, and then I think this is the last EX card we're going to see here. This is Mimikyu EX. And it's got 190 HP, very low, but it is a basic Pokemon as well. And it's got the moves Void Return for 1 Psychic Energy. You do 30 damage, and you may switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So just kind of switch. This is the same move as Hisuian Zoroark V. And then for Psychic and 2 Colorless, Energy Burst does 30 damage, and this attack does 30 damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. In certain cases, this might do pretty decent damage, such as against Lugia V-Star. I think the thing to note here is that, yes, its moves are kind of mid. The Void Return is not good. The Energy Burst is situational at best. But this is a 190 HP basic, which against certain decks, this might be pretty decent. I don't have high hopes for Mimikyu regardless, but something to keep in mind that there are going to be basics that are still basic EX cards that will still have a lot of HP. Kind of like Pokemon V right now. Nemona has unfortunately, and I guess we should have known this, Nemona was going to be the draw 3 card. She does get 2 different versions of it though, the Scarlet version and the Violet version. And then we have, oh no, we do have another EX card here to look at. This one's a basic as well, 210 HP, kind of in the realm of Pokemon V right now. This is Cyclizar, colorless Pokemon, and it's got the move Power Run for 1 colorless, does 30 damage, and search your deck for a basic energy card and attach it to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. That's not bad. It does make it easier to then pull off Full Throttle on the next turn, 180 damage, and this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So 180 can't attack during the next turn. You can get around that with switches, escape ropes, stuff like that. It's not bad. And again, these values may seem a little underwhelming relative to what we've seen from V-Stars and V-Maxes, but we don't know everything about the Scarlet and Violet meta yet. We don't know what the other Pokemon look like. We also don't know what the comeback mechanic looks like, which the Pokemon Company announced on the World Championships. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think, yeah, that's it for the first batch of Scarlet and Violet cards. So what do you think of what you've seen so far? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Also have to preface this by the things I just said. We don't know the full picture just yet, but it is getting a little clearer as we go. I think the thing I'm most excited for is the shift to EX Pokemon, and I think my biggest gripe with the game is that if you win the coin flip, there's a very good chance on your second turn, you can just boss up a Pokemon V, knock it out, you've taken 2 prizes, and not only is a third of the game done, depending on how your opponent's set up, the game might be over. And moving away from that, where you're only knocking out basic Pokemon on the second turn, does give even the playing field a little bit, so it's not as reliant on who wins the coin flip. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm excited for right now. I'm also very excited to see what the comeback mechanic is, because I think that the Pokemon trading card game at this point in time is very much not conducive to comebacks. It feels like pretty much the person who gets the first prizes wins. But this comeback mechanic, I have a lot of hopes for. Please be good. Please be good. Please be good. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before we go, some quick plugs. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In Third Person. You can also find me on Twitch at In Third Person, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. All right, let's get out of here. Bye-bye. Where's my outro screen? It's here. All right. Later, everyone.